Help keep Kinks and Beats Daily ad-free and receive bonus content early with a contribution of 20 cents per episode. Visit herohabit.com/shop for more information. Hello. This is Kinks and Beats Daily. I'm your host, Tony Fry, and you are listening to episode 132. Thank you for downloading. I hope if you're enjoying this podcast that you swing by iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating and review so that we can get many more ears onto this pod. Today, we're talking about a heavy song. Maybe the heaviest song we've covered so far in this podcast. Song is Some Mother's Son by the Kinks, and it was released October 10th, 1969 on Arthur, or The Decline and Fall of the British Empire. Arguably, the Kinks' best album. And I say arguably because I could argue for about 5 of their albums to be called their best album, but this is definitely one that I can make the argument for, along with virtually anybody else that's heard it. Phenomenal album. And this track in particular, it may be Ray's most beautiful and aching lyrics to date. You know, and he's written some great lyrics. At this point, he's already written Waterloo Sunset, right? We've had some phenomenal lyrics from Ray Davies. But this one is so layered and nuanced and mature and it's just beautiful, and it's perfectly blended with this melody that he's written that is all over the place. The melody on this song, if you've ever tried to sing it and you have a limited vocal range, you probably can't sing through the whole thing. The range that he takes it in just melodically is outrageous. In fact, if I sing any excerpts from it now, I have to take it down a step because the high notes are too high for me to sing. And if I take it down 2 steps, which would be more comfortable for my high range, I can't hit the low notes. Like, he is all over the place with this melody. And it's beautiful. And it perfectly fits the song. And like we've talked about in other cases, the main harmonic basis for this song, despite it sounding sad and despite it being a very depressing subject matter, is mostly written in major keys. He does shift to minor here and there, but we open in major tonality, and very basic major tonality, 1, 4, 5s, which is something I don't understand how he does it so frequently and how I keep getting fooled by it, but it's phenomenal. Ray alludes to this track during interviews when he's promoting Village Green Preservation Society in August 1968. And recording begins probably in the May 5th, 1969 area. The band had wanted to record this entire album in a series of sessions over 2 weeks. They wanted to get the whole thing done in 2 weeks. And so they spent a lot of time rehearsing it ahead of time. They were also rehearsing Dave's solo album, which Ray was producing. And Ray was going to the United States pretty frequently during this period to produce an album by the Turtles. So it was a very busy time. And so they don't end up doing it in 2 weeks, but they do get the bulk of the recording done in the May-June 1969 time frame. So the song, Some Mother's Son, is obviously, any idiot listening to it can tell it's an anti-war song. Okay? Where we get some disagreement in the interpretation is who's singing it. Now, I've seen, when I research these things, I try to look for other people's analysis, whether it was from the time of a release, whether it was some blogger talking about it, recently. I try to look for other people's analysis because sometimes it informs mine. Sometimes I will completely change my analysis because I'll think, oh, wow, I don't know why I didn't think of that, but that's exactly right, and so I build my new analysis off of this. This one, though, I did not find an analysis that changed my mind because a lot of people think that this is written from the perspective of the mother or on behalf of the mother. And I don't think that's true. I think this is written from the perspective of the military, or the men who are sending the kids to war. It's from their perspective. And the title alone should tell you this. Some Mother's Son. Completely dismissive. First off, some mother is dismissive enough. We're not going to name her. We're not going to give her anything. She's just some mother's, it's the mother of some soldier. But the subject of that title is the soldier, some mother's son. So the soldier doesn't even get a name in this. So it's like the ultimate dismissive phrase, some mother's son. And it's easy to interpret both sides of this, where Ray could be singing, if he's singing from the more empathetic side, where you're thinking, that was somebody's son that just died on that field. Then you have this beautiful tribute to that kid that died. But I look at this more cynical. That Ray is singing on behalf of the guy that's, the general that sent this kid out to die. He's just some mother's son. He's nothing to me. I don't even know his name. And we have lyrics, some mother's son lies in a field. Someone has killed some mother's son today. Head blown up by some soldier's gun. The line that gets me is some other son lies in a field. Back home, they put his picture in a frame, but all dead soldiers look the same. This isn't a person. This isn't a name. This is just a uniform on the field. And so where it's on the surface, I can make the argument for these analysis that I was reading, that it's from the mother's perspective. And I'm not dismissing those because they're valid. We all have our opinions on these songs. But I think it speaks more to the disregard for life and the anonymity of an army filled with kids dressed exactly the same. That a general, a soldier, the army, whatever, can't send kids into war if they've got mothers and they have names attached to them. So, we have this anonymity. And even in the bridge, somewhere, someone is crying. Someone is trying to be so brave, but still the world keeps turning, though all the children have gone away. We never really attach to these dead soldiers. And we're trying to keep them at a distance. It's not my soldier. It's not my private that went out there and got killed. It's some mother's son. That's 2 degrees of separation. I don't know the mother, and I don't know her son. And my interpretation of these lyrics does not change the fact that it's still an anti-war song. Whether you are listening to it empathetically from the mother's perspective or listening to it cynically from the army's perspective, it's still an anti-war song. And, I had a conversation once about the song She's Leaving Home. I remember having this conversation with a guy I went to high school with. And he told me, and this is, we're 16, 17 years old, but he told me that She's Leaving Home was one of the only songs that made him cry. And I was like, well, that makes sense. It's kind of a sad, heartbreaking song. And he said, but who do you cry for? Are you crying for the daughter or are you crying for the parents? And in a lot of ways, this song is the same way. If you listen to She's Leaving Home from the point of view of the kid who feels neglected, who feels alone, it's heartbreaking. If you listen to it from the point of view of the parents who feel like we did everything we could and you didn't have, you don't see it that way and you're leaving us and we've loved you and we did all this, it's heartbreaking. Same with Some Mother's Son. If you listen to it from the mother's perspective, that it's some mother's son out there dying, and trying to personalize it in that way, it's heartbreaking for the mothers and for the loss of these sons that are dying on the battlefields. But if you listen to it from uh, the perspective that I'm arguing for, it's a much more cynical song. And this is the mark of great songwriting, is that you can have a song that effectively tells the same story from two different viewpoints, and you can have two different sets of emotions depending on how you are relating to the song at that given point. With this one, you can either be sad at all these kids that are dying, or you can be angry at the men who are sending these kids to die. And it's just like She's Leaving Home, depending on where you listen to it, you've either got an ungrateful kid with supportive parents, or you have a lonely kid with absentee parents, depending on how you listen to it. Going back to the chords on this song, it's not really easy to analyze it because he is all over the place, and each line gets higher. And he kind of shifts in and out of different keys. Some other son lies in a field. Someone has killed some other son today. Head blown up by some soldier's gun. While the mothers stand and wait, some other son ain't coming home today. Some other son ain't got no grave. Two soldiers fighting in a trench. One soldier glances up to see the sun and dreams of games he played when he was young. And then his friend calls out his name. It stops his dreaming as he turns his head. A second later he is dead. Somewhere, someone is crying. Someone is trying to be so brave. But still, the world keeps turning, though all the children have gone away. Some other son lies in a field, but in his mother's eyes he looks the same as on the day he went away. They put his picture on the wall, they put flowers in the picture frame. Some mother's memory remains. That's a heavy song. But you can hear how in the melody, every line he sings starts at a different pitch. There's no, even though the intervals, it's da 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 dum, da 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 dum, da 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 dum, ba da 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 dum. That whole verse is one melodic line. He's not repeating the phrasing, and there's not any kind of motif that you can grab onto. He's not going, some other son lies in a field, some other da 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 da. Like, he's not using the same melodic structures every time he goes up, but he starts off so low in his range and then ends up so high at the top of his range and then kind of brings it down. Some other son ain't got no grave. Boom, two soldiers fight, and just reset. And so you've got this constant ascension, and then the bottom falls out and you start all over. It's like you're changing gears in the car, right? And then when he gets to that bridge, somewhere someone is crying, someone is trying to be so brave. It kind of flatlines a little bit. You get a little bit of a reprieve from this constant ascent and then 90-degree drop, ascent, 90-degree drop. And then you've got like this slow kind of, lilting back and forth, and then back to ascent, 90-degree drop. It's good songwriting, and it's a very clever track on this album that is already filled with clever tracks. What do you think of this song? Is my analysis completely off? There's obviously room for debate on this one. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Give me a call, 925-494-1739, or email me, kinksandbeats@herohabit.com. And like I mentioned yesterday, we have some bonus episodes coming out soon. First, to the subscribers who are contributing $4 a month to keep this podcast afloat and ad-free. They will be getting their download of our Mars podcast. I don't know why I said it like that. Our Mars podcast sometime in the first week of May, and then it'll become, available to the public after that. And we'll also have some listener mail stuff where we will play, if you have a comment about a particular track that we talked about, we're going to start releasing those in chunks as standalone episodes for bonus content. All right, so let me know. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this one. It's a great tune, great lyric. Everything about this song is solid, and I think it's kind of lost sometimes on such a great album, this one standout song. All right, I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks for listening. Make sure to swing by iTunes and give us 5 stars and a 5-star rating and review. All right, thank you. I'll talk to you tomorrow. This podcast is presented by the Hero Habit Podcast Network. Swing by HeroHabit.com today to comment on this episode and poke around our growing database of sports and pop culture news, reviews, and collectibles. HeroHabit.com. Collect your heroes.